Hello and welcome to Crack Jade Glasses, where I am going to be reading a book. I know, the most original concept. An agnostic or an atheist reading a book on YouTube. But unlike others who, Aaron Ra or The Bible Reloaded, or even Jacqueline Glenn sometimes, reading out Bible passages and pointing out flaws, I'm going to focus on religious philosophy, or philosophy that is heavily coated in a dose of religion, because I find that way more fascinating, and there's nowhere I'd rather start than what I consider a probably mentally ill man, Ernest Holmes, The Science of the Mind. Now, Ernest Holmes, who, for those of you who don't know and didn't have a father like mine with this on their bookshelf, it makes you question whether they were sane. Full name Ernest Shirtleft Holmes. Wow, Shirtleft. No wonder he went insane. Created a divine science new thought teaching. It was a self-help movement, and it was basically trying to fuse science and religion for faith-healing purposes and philosophy. And wow, that just sounds crazy as hell when I say it out loud. So this is gonna be fun. It was known as Christian Science, and he actually Christian Science had a few unusual people that actually were into it. Cary Grant, Cecil B. DeMille, and Peggy Lee. I'm not entirely sure who Peggy Lee is personally, but the other two I know quite well. So, I mean, this wasn't just some underground thing. This guy was born in 1887 and died in 1960, so this is fairly recent philosophy. So, I'm gonna crack this thing. There will be paraphrasing and probably exceptions to things that I just don't think are interesting. Like I said, I don't think I said, but I'm unaccredited, unaffiliated, and quite frankly, am just doing this for my own enjoyment and possibly others. We're starting with the dedication. These lessons are dedicated to that truth which frees man from himself. Okay. And sets him on a pathway of a new experience. Yea, new experience. Which enables him to see through the mist. Like gorillas? To the eternal and changeless reality. Changeless is where I have my and eternal. While both of those don't. They're capitalized. I believe I have this up right now. I don't remember. And then it goes into peace be unto thee, stranger. Peace be unto thee, stranger. Enter and be not afraid. I have left the gate open, and thou art welcome in my home. There is room in my house for all. I have swept the hearth and lighted the fire. The room is warm and cheerful, and you will find comfort and rest within. The table is laid, and the fruits of life are spread before thee. The wine is also here. It sparkles in the light. I think that might be champagne, then. I have set a chair for you where the sunbeams dance through the shade. Sit and rest, refresh your soul. Eat of the fruit and drink the wine. All is yours, and you are welcome. Okay. This thing is going to be relevant in a couple of pages, because there's some things that he says that kind of go against that sentiment of, being nice to people. So, Part 1, The Thing Itself. Now that is a very unclear way to start things. We all look forward to the day when science and religion shall walk hand in hand through the visible to the invisible. Science knows nothing of opinion, but recognizes a government of law whose principles are universal. Yet any scientist who refuses to accept intangible values has no adequate basis for the values which he has already discovered. Revelation must keep faith with reason and religion with law, while intuition is ever spreading its wings for greater flights, and science must justify faith in the invisible. Okay, so this is one of those guys who wants, separation of church and state, or at least in this case, science and religion to just not exist, and that science can only go so far until religion takes over. That kind of guy. That kind of guy that I just go fuck you to a lot. Okay. To suppose the creative intelligence of the universe, oh great, intelligent design, would create man in bondage and leave him bound would be to dishonor the creative power which we call God. You got a point there. I mean, I've never liked the whole born to a fallen state crap. To suppose that God could make a man as an individual without leaving him to discover himself would be to suppose an impossibility. Individuality must be spontaneous. It can never be automatic. The seed of freedom must be planted in the innermost being of a man, but like the prodigal son, man must make the great discovery for himself. So, God made you not in a fallen state, but ignorant, and wants you to go find his Easter eggs. And prodigal son, and stuff like that, yeah. We see abundance in the universe. We cannot count the grains of sand on a single beach. Well, I suppose we could. It'd kind of be a waste of time, though. And when the beaches end and stuff like that. It's possible. The earth contains untold riches, and the air is very vibrant with power. Power is going to be a concept that you're going to hear a lot in this, which is going to kind of make him, super villainish that way to me. Why then is the man weak, poor, and afraid? The science of the mind deals with these questions. The divine plan is one of freedom. Bondage is not God ordained. Oh man, if the Catholics got it wrong then. Freedom is the birthright of every living soul. All instinctively feel this. The truth points to the freedom under law. Wait, what? The truth points to freedom under law. Okay. Thus, the inherent nature of man is to forever seeking to express itself in terms of freedom. We do well to listen to this inner voice, for it tells us of a life wonderful in its scope, of a love beyond our fondest dreams, of a freedom which the soul craves. Or you've just made friends with the voice in your head. Which, honestly, if you have to have a voice in your head, making friends with him, definitely a bonus. But the great love of the universe must be one with the great law of its own being? So, is the love of the universe a being in itself, then, according to this? Because I think love of the universe, and I'm like, I don't know if God has, is in love with somebody, so maybe with us, which would be creepy. And we approach love through the law. No, we don't. We approach ethics through the law. This, then, is the teaching of love and law, as the love of God is perfect, and so the law of God is perfect. Oh, boy. The law of God is perfect and has no exceptions. Joy. Now I'm going to hell because I'm a blasphemer. Oh well. We must understand both. Whatever the nature of any principle may be in so far as it is understood by anyone, it may be understood by all who take the time to investigate. This does not require an unusual degree of intelligence, but rather practical application of what we know in order that we may increase our knowledge. So, to supplement for us being dumb, we need to do more practical application. I'm not sure a dumb person knows what practical application means, and I don't know what it means in what you're talking about. So, the study of the science of the mind is a study of first cause, spirit, mind, or that invisible essence. That ultimate stuff. Stuff is capitalized here, by the way. And intelligence, from which everything comes, the power of back creation, the thing itself. We accept this thing and believe in it. Maybe you do. And what we desire is to know more about it and how to use it. So we want to dominate the thing which may be God, so we want to turn God into a power source. Alright. From proof alone, we know we are dealing with a definite principle. If one, through the conscious use of this knowledge, can produce a certain result, he must know with what he is dealing. It may seem as though in dealing with metaphysics we are dealing with something that's too abstract. It's abstract by its nature. It's not too abstract, it's just as abstract enough. But what is tangible other than results? Well, if you're doing abstract stuff, the results wouldn't be tangible. And not all results are tangible, especially if we're talking about the mind here. Okay, maybe it's just saying that, you'll see it with your own eyes kind of stuff. I don't know. Principles are forever hidden from our eyes. We accept the deductions of science so far as they are proved. We recognize that they are built on immutable but invisible principles. I don't know about what this guy's definition of invisible means. Maybe he's thinking literally invisible, but I think he is trying to be imperceivable, and we can perceive them? So he's wrong? Okay, then. Oh. And now we get to the things here where there's little sub-things that are like the, describing. The universe never plays favorites. Uh-huh. We are so used to the thought that if we mix certain colors, we get other colors, that we do not realize that we are dealing with a principle. No, we do. We do realize that it's a principle of light. We know that whoever blends these particular colors will get the same result, unless you're colorblind and see colors differently. But we do not do why. The wisest man living does not know why. I just answered your question, so am I the wisest man? We do not have to stretch our credulity more into metaphysics. We think metaphysics perhaps is something that only the most profound thinkers have known about. But we should remember that we are also thinkers. The profound thought of all ages has stood in awe of life itself, realizing here is a power and potentiality, the highest possibilities of which the human intellect cannot fathom. I can't fathom what exactly you're trying to imply, other than everybody can be a philosopher about metaphysics. So, universal principles are never respecters of persons. The universe has no favorites, and therefore it is written, and let him that is athirst come, and whoever will, let him take the water of life freely. Revelations 22:17. Oh boy, quoting Revelations. This is going to be fun. Nothing supernatural about the study of life. No, there isn't. That's not what you're studying, though. Let us approach the science of the mind, science of spiritual psychology with awe, but not with fear, with truly humble thought, but not with a sense that we are unworthy. So, we're in awe, but we're not unworthy of it, okay? Let us approach it normally, happily, and willing to accept, glad to our experiment, hoping and believing that as the result of our efforts, we shall derive a great good, a sound understanding of the natural laws of life as they, individual, and his relationships of the whole universal scheme of things. I'm just picturing a scientist frolicking in a field happily towards all the answers of the universe. So, this is the simple meaning of true metaphysical teaching, the study of life, the nature of the law, governed directly by thought. Natural laws are not like other kinds of laws. I don't know if he knows that, but I just want to make sure everyone listening knows that. So, always conscious that we live in a spiritual universe. Yeah. That God is in. God is here. He's always here. Through and around for us, there is nothing supernatural about the study of life, the metaphysical viewpoint. Yes, there is. That's what metaphysical means. That which today seems to us supernatural, after it is thoroughly understood, will be found spontaneously natural. Yes, once we understand something, it becomes not supernatural. But I thought you said metaphysics weren't supernatural. You've already proven your point to be null. We all know that many have been healed of physical disease through prayer. Yes, we all know, and you can buy for 99 cents. Yes. Let's analyze this. Why are some healed through prayer while others are not? Can we believe that there's a God who picks out some man and says, I will honor your prayer, but I do not think so much of so-and-so? It is superstitious to believe that God will answer the prayer of one above another. Jesus said that God maketh his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth the rain on the just and the unjust. Okay, so God is an equal opportunity asshole, is what they're saying. We're, leaving. Since some people have not been healed through prayer, while others have been healed through prayer, while others have not, the answer is not that God has responded to some and others, but some have responded to God more than others. So you don't believe enough. Yeah. Their prayer, their thought, prayers and thoughts are the same thing to this guy, just so you know, has responded by corresponding. The answer to prayer is in the prayer, but what is a prayer? A prayer is a movement of thought within the mind, one of the praying, along a definite line of meditation that is for a specific purpose. So you can send your thought waves to God, and whoever gets there the fastest and strongest wins. Kind of like semen to an egg. Except I don't know, it'd be a miracle baby. What is the mind? No man living knows. I think we have a pretty good grasp of that. We know a great deal about the mind, but not what it is. By mind, we mean consciousness. We are now using it. We cannot locate mind in the body. Well, I'm pretty sure if you chop off someone's head, they don't have consciousness, so if you damage the brain in any way. Well, most ways. For while the body is a necessary vehicle for consciousness, while we are here, it is not consciousness. We cannot isolate the mind. All we know about is what it is, but what we do not know. Okay, yeah. All we know about it is not what it is, but what it does, and the greatest philosopher who ever lived knows no more than this, ellipses, except that he may tell us more of how it works. Oh, man. I forgot how annoying this guy is. There are not two minds, only two names. Mind the thing, spirit, causation is beyond and yet not beyond our grasp, beyond in that is so big within that wherever we grasp at it, we are to the extent that we grasp it. But since it is infinite and we can never encompass it, we shall encompass God, and yet we shall always be in God and of God. Okay, so like a pantheist idea, I suppose, except that we don't encompass God. I don't know how that would work. Mind comes under two classifications. There are not two minds, but two names employed describing the states of consciousness. The objective, or the conscious, and the subjective, or the unconscious. Wait, what? Okay, I don't know how much you know about subjective and objective reality, but that would more than likely be switched for most people who believe in something objective, like an objective morality or something, that when we're conscious, everything we see is subjective, and then when we're unconscious, it's the objective morality or God or whatever that does things. But according to this guy, the objective is the conscious part. And the subjective is unconscious. I don't know how that would work ever. We think of the conscious state as our conscious use of mind. The subconscious or subjective state of the mind, sometimes called the unconscious state, is part of mind which is set in motion as creative thing by the conscious state. So we control our subconscious with the objective conscious. Just no, man, no. In the body of this textbook, understand that the heading of subjective mind, we say in the subjective mind of man, find a law obeying his word. The servant of the spirit suggestion has proved that the subconscious mind acts upon our thoughts. It is the mental law of our being, the creative factor within us. It is unnecessary at this point to go into all the details of subjective mind, because details would certainly, be too much in its mode of action. It is enough to say that a mental law, working out the will and purposes of our conscious thoughts. This can be no other than our individual use of that greater subjective mind. Just that phrase hurts me, greater subjective mind, which is the seat of all mental law and action. This is the servant of the eternal spirit throughout the ages. So, you see God regularly in an objective form and on the outside, but on the inside you secretly disbelieve because it's unconscious, and that part's subjective? I don't get it. Limitless power at man's disposal. Marvelous as the concept may be, it is nonetheless true that man has at his disposal what he calls his subjective mind, power which seems limitless. So the Holy Spirit is hooked up to a giant power source. Eternal Spirit, I should say, or servant of the Eternal Spirit, whatever. This is because he is one with the whole of the subjective side of life. So your subjectiveness has aligned so you can use the power. Got it. Man's thought, falling into subjective mind, merges with the universal subjective mind and becomes the law of life. Through one great law of all life. There are not two subjective minds. We were over that already. But one named subjective mind, and what we call our subjective mind is really the use we are making of the one law. Each individual maintains his identity in law through his personal use of it, and each drawing from life is what he thinks into it. So you're kind of walking around and God is directing you kind of already because everything's just so objectively clear, but you pick up these little things and shove it into your mind and learn your real personality. Is that the thing? To learn how to think is to learn how to live, for our thoughts go into a medium that is infinite in its ability to do and to be. Man, by thinking can bring his experience whatsoever he desires. If he thinks correctly and becomes a living embodiment of his thoughts, this is not done by holding his thoughts but by knowing the truth. Within us, there is a creative field, which we call the subjective mind. Around us, there's a creative field, which we call subjective. The one is universal, the other is individual, but in reality they are one. Then why is one universal, the other individual, if they're one already? There is no one mental law in the universe, and where we use it, it becomes our law because we have individualized it. So how is it a universal law if we've all individualized it? It is impossible to plumb the depths of the individual mind. Probably. I can agree with that. But because the individual mind is really not individual, but individualized. So the only reason we can't is that it's connected to everybody else's individual mind, making it a super brain, or super mind. Yeah. Behind the individual is the universal, which has no limits. In this concept alone lies the possibility of eternal and endless expansion, except you actually look at the actual universe, which is so far eternal and expanding. Everyone is universal on the subjective side of life. Wait, how is everyone universal on being subjective? Because being subjective would... Okay, I gotta get through this. And individual only at the point of conscious perception. The riddle is solved. We all use the creative power of the universal mind every time we use our own mind. So when we all think the same thoughts that are different thoughts, because the subjective is actually the universal? Wow. All thoughts creative. Since this is true, wink wink, it follows that we cannot say that one thought is creative while others are not. We must say that all thought is creative according to the nature, impulse, emotion, or conviction behind the thought. No, that wouldn't... all thought wouldn't be creative. It's its nature and impulse and emotion. You can predict these things, and therefore, if it's predictable, it's not creative. Thought creates a mold in the subjective, in which the idea is accepted and poured. It sets in motion accordance with the thought. Ignorance of this excuses no one from its effects. Yes, if you were ignorant to the law of gravity, you'd still, deal with it. So maybe the whole subjective object, take that out of it, that's probably what that means. You're not wrong. For we are dealing with law and not with whimsical fancy. I don't know if we're not dealing with whimsical fancy with you. The conscious mind is superior to the subjective and may consciously use it. Isn't it the conscious mind have to do things consciously? Greatest subconscious is its tendency to set in motion by the conscious thought, and in this possibility leads the path to freedom. The karmic law is not kismet, it is not fate, but cause and effect. It is a taskmaster, unwise, a servant, and a servant to the wise. Okay. The road to freedom is not mysterious. Could be. I don't know. Experience has taught us that the subjectivity tendency of this intelligent law of creative force may consciously be directed and definitely used. This is the greatest discovery of all time. There's no mystery here, but a profound fact, and a demonstrable one. Well, when it's demonstrable, and if I ever see it, I'll let you know. The road to freedom lies not with the mysteries or occult performances, but through the intelligent use of natural forces and laws. The law of the mind is a natural law, but in the spiritual world. Okay, you just said occult performances, okay, this is so not magic, yet it's, using spiritual things, which is so magic. Yeah. What do you mean by the spiritual world? We mean the word of conscious intelligence. The subjective is a world of law and mechanical order. How is anything subjective? Oh, God. You hurt, book. In our lives, it is largely a reaction, an effect. It is never a person, though it often appears to act as though it were one. So, even though you have your own subjective thoughts, it's still not a person. You're not defined by your subjective thoughts. I'm sorry, people that believe in, subjective moralities and reality. I guess you're just wrong. Right here, many are completely misled, mistaking subjective impulses for actual personalities. Ugh. This, however, is a field of investigation not fully to be considered here. The simplest way to state the proposition is to say that we have a conscious mind that operates within the subjective field, which is creative. The conscious mind is spirit, and the subjective mind is law. One is a complement of the other, and no real individuality could be expressed without both, a combination of both. Well, seeing as you just said that they're kind of one and the same, and universal is individual, or at least individualism, yeah. To you, I guess this makes sense. Doesn't to me. No man has ever plumbed the depths of either conscious or subjective life. Well, yeah. In both directions, we reach out to infinity. Okay, so like a line in geometry where it's, has two arrows on the end and keeps going, as opposed to like a ray where it's a dot. A line that goes in one direction. Got it. Since we cannot encompass infinity, we shall always be expanding and enlarging our capacity to know and to experience, and need not ask why these things are so. There can be no reason as to why the truth is true. We do not create laws and principles, but discover and make use of them. Okay, so we discover gravity works and we make use of it. Yeah. Okay, not wrong there, exactly. Let us accept this position relative to laws of mind and spirit. Okay, so you're saying that spiritual laws are the same as laws of physics. Mm-hmm. And see what we can do with them, rather than how we may contradict the inevitable. Our mind and spirit is our echo of the eternal thing itself. How is it an echo? So it's a copy that's been watered down after bouncing around forever? Although it's essentially the same sound, just reverberating? I don't know. And the sooner we discover this fact, the sooner we shall be made free and happy. The universe is filled with spirit and filled with law. One reacts to the other. We are spirit, we are the law. The law of our life reacts to our spiritual or material concepts and builds and rebuilds according to our beliefs and faith. So you shape the world. Everyone shapes the world with what they believe, except that he believes everyone overtly, because he says objectively, would be overtly believes that you can change the world with our spirit and minds. I'm not sure if this guy understands what these words mean. Maybe I'm completely misunderstanding this too, but let's face it, this thing is so convoluted. Who the fuck could ever, get this in one go? All men seek relationship with the universal mind and the oversoul. Oh, joy, did we get to the... Okay, so there's like an ubermensch to this whole shit. Holy cow, that's weird. The universal mind, the oversoul, or the eternal spirit, or which we call God, which are all the same? And life reveals to whoever is receptive of it that we are living in a spiritual universe which includes the material or physical universe that has been a conclusion of the deepest thinkers of every age. That is, this spiritual universe must be one of pure intelligence and perfect life. So the oversoul is pure intelligence, life, and next line is dominated by love and by reason to power create. It's an inevitable conclusion. I have the works of Nietzsche book somewhere, but I'm pretty sure it's probably not comparable to the whole Overmen thing, but if it was, I'm pretty sure it doesn't match up, so fuck it. There is a power in the universe that honors our faith. In it, there is a law in the universe which exacts the uttermost farthing. I have to remember what a farthing is, and it's not coming to me. We all wish to feel that the power behind everything is good, as well as creative and eternal, changeless intelligence in which man lives and moves, and in his being intuitively we make sense that every man in his native state is part of some manifestation of the eternal principle. So intuitively we know we're all part of the eternal principle. Oh. God, help me understand this guy who thinks he knows what God is, and I don't believe in God. So, see, it's just like the circle jerking in this book. Okay, it has been written that the truth shall make us free, provided that we know the truth. So we have to know the truth to set it free. Yeah, that's pretty much every religion says ever. And we note that the evolution of man's consciousness brings with it the acquisition of new powers and higher possibilities. So, Jesus X-Men? I don't know if that's what that means, but I prefer that thought. You know, Professor Jesus and his X-Men. Or would it be his J-Men? Probably his J-Men. And they just turn the X's a bit and make them into crosses, I guess. We find ourselves torn by confusion, by conflict, by affirmation and denial, by emotion, congested by fear, congealed by pride. We are afraid of the universe in which we live, suspicious of people around us, and uncertain of the salvation of our own souls. All these negatively react and cause physical disorders. Oh, so we're talking thetan levels before thetan levels. So the more afraid and sad and actually critically thinking you are, the more negatively this impacts your soul. Oh, God, talk about a frickin', I feel weak and because I'm overly critical of myself. Well, yeah, because you're, digging into yourself, figuring out who you are. You come out stronger for it. You don't end up, bedridden forever. Nature seems to await our comprehension of her. Okay, now it's a she. Interesting. And since she is governed by immutable laws, the ignorance of which excuses no man from their effects, the bondage of humanity, except you said humanity wasn't a bondage, or God didn't make us into bondage. I don't know. But I do feel anybody talking about religion needs to apologize to everyone into BDSM, because you're taking the beautiful thing of beating the crap out of each other for sexual release and making it dirty with religion. Fucking assholes. Must be the result of our ignorance and true nature of reality. The storehouse of nature may be filled with good, but this good is locked to the ignorant. So goodness is ignorance. The key to the store is held in the mind of intelligence, working in accordance with universal law. Through experience, man learns that what is really good and satisfying, what is truly worthwhile, as his intelligence increases his capacity to understand the subtle laws of nature grows. He will gradually be set free as he learns the truth. The truth will automatically free him. So, intelligence is the key which you unlock in the ignorance of oneself. I think I interpreted that correctly. When we learn to trust the universe, we shall be happy, prosperous, and well. Or we'll just, be dead from the whole heat death thing or the big crunch. One or the other. We must learn to come under the divine government. Oh, wow, that sent a chill down my spine, the words divine government. Ugh. I know he doesn't mean like an actual divine government, but to me that's fucking scary. And accept the fact that nature's table is ever filled, never was there a cosmic famine. The finite alone has wrought and suffered, the infinite lies stretched out in smiling response. God is always God, no matter what our emotional storm or what our objective situation maybe. There is always something hidden in the inner being that has never been violated. We may stumble, but there is always that eternal voice forever whispering within our ear, that thing which causes the eternal quest that for whichever sings and sings. Okay, this guy has a talent from going to sounding kind of philosophy sciencey to all of a sudden which forever sings and sings. So, I don't know if it's a talent or some sort of religious ADD, or he starts talking in tongues and then he has to, pause for a while and start up again. I don't know. Divine nature is in every man. I could argue against that because I don't believe in a divine nature. We get the idea. This is the thing itself. I thought the other things were the thing itself. Make up your mind. Briefly, let us recapitulate. Okay, that's not a word I'm familiar with, actually. There is that within every individual which partakes of the nature of the universal wholeness, and so far it operates, is God. That is the meaning of the word Emmanuel, which meaning the word Christ. There is within us which partakes the nature of the divine being. Since it partakes of the nature of the divine being, we are divine. It reacts to us according to our belief in it. It is an immutable law. Okay, what? I might have lost the plot here. So, it is an immutable law that we are, universal wholeness, I guess. I don't know. It's hurting my brain. Not in a good way. Okay, which is of the least among us, no respecter provisions cannot be bound. Our soul will never change or violate its own nature. All of with the nine will never change it. Okay, so my soul has not been changed no matter how much I deny all this, is what he's saying. And yet negative things cause afflictions. So does it only cause afflictions to my physical form? All by the affirming of it will never make it any more than it is, so you can't make it a super soul, apparently, even though they talk about the whole oversoul thing, but apparently that's what controls the other souls, I guess. But since it is what it is, one of my least favorite phrases of all time, and works in the way that it works, slightly better. I like that phrasing more. It appears to each thought his belief. It is done unto each one of us as we believe. We will say then that in spirit man is one with God. But what of the great law of the universe? If we are really one with the whole, we must be one with the law of the whole as well as with the spirit of the whole. If we try and find something difficult to grasp, we shall never grasp it, because we will always think of it as incomprehensible. The mind, which we must discover, is in the mind that governs everything, the thing itself. So basically, you are set for failure trying to grasp something incomprehensible because you think of it as incomprehensible, but the thing itself, or God in this, can help you reach what's incomprehensible. But wouldn't it just supplant it by being the answer? Okay, this is the thing itself, and we should recognize its simplicity. I wouldn't say any of this was fucking simple. I mean, it's a long, convoluted thing about defining things that aren't things that are things. Oh my... Reading this aloud has given me a headache. But that is the beginning of the end of the thing itself, or which might be Jesus or something else. I don't know. Ugh. But stay tuned for Part 2. The way it works. Because we may have defined the thing itself, but we still don't know the way it works. If that makes any sense to you.